Ladies and gentlemen, once again, because of the wacky time zone differences, our show was taped before some key matches took place, including Fiji losing 17-29 to Wales in what was a highly competitive contest. It saw the lead switch over twice, and Fiji certainly could have won, but a few penalties at wrong moments ended up being the difference. And as we know, Team USA lost to Argentina, who are a much better team. Now the focus of all USA Rugby fans is on Tonga.
Coming up next on Rugby Wrap-Up, Mike Friday, George Hook, and Steve Lewis talk Rugby World Cup. Hey everybody, welcome back to Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy and Steve Lewis in Midtown Manhattan in the studio. And Steven, you are just fresh off the boat from Japan, and he took the boat because it was cheaper.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa, my friend. Arigato.
As well.
Yes. And it's good to see you. You look well-rested. Lies for 200, Alex. But Steven, let's not dilly-dally. We have two guests, two major league guests, two big hitters, two heavyweights in the rugby world in Mike Friday, the USA 7s coach, and George Hook, the man, the myth, the legend. Mike, welcome.
Hiya, how are we?
We're good. You could change. You've got another extravagant background I see there that you've chosen.
No expense spared, clearly.
Bare Bones Friday. And George, let's see what you got. We know that you're going to outshine Mike.
Yeah, welcome, in fact, from the most southerly province in Portugal, the Algarve, where I am relaxing in 28 degrees of sunshine, and I don't give a hoot what happens in Japan.
Hey, Mike, he's on the road in Portugal, and he can figure this thing out with no problem. But anyway, all right. So, guys, just before we get into the Rugby World Cup, Mike and Steve, you're here. You're Sevens gods. Mike, USA Women's Sevens team.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic result. Home soil, great victory. Second one consecutive for them. So, I think they grew through the tournament. But Chetaremba, with that big moment in the quarterfinal against Canada, which just, I think, gave them the belief and the momentum to kick on. And they fully deserved to win the title. They were outstanding against New Zealand, and then they followed it up against Australia. Absolutely first class.
Yeah, just to echo Mike's comments there. Massive congratulations, obviously. What I thought was interesting, though, was the character and the resiliency that they showed. Mike sort of alluded to it. Losing to France gave him a tough quarter. Cheta actually had an iffy play prior to her starring role there. She missed a tackle. They went behind, but boom, she came right back, made that big play. They defended 2 minutes into overtime against New Zealand. They showed a lot of character to add to the skill, and that was probably the great thing coming out of the weekend.
Women's rugby has been destroyed. Rugby is the only sport in the world where women play with the same size implement as men. They jump over smaller hurdles. They throw smaller discoi. They do everything that is smaller. Basketball, football, name everything. And they insist on playing with a men's rugby ball, which ensures that goal kicking, punting, and restarts are all below par through no fault of the women. And I have to say, it all started in America because they wanted equality, and it was all BS when they thought the ball would give them equality.
Wait, what about Faf de Klerk kicking the ball? He's a little guy kicking the ball. Come on.
Sorry, I'll try to explain.
I'm not touching this one. I am not touching this
one. And we don't have time to continue on this one. So we're going to go right to the World Cup. There's a segue. French Mutiny Part 2. George, why don't you start with this?
I mean, I don't think it's terribly important, to be honest, because the French players, the French coach, and the French president have always been at odds since de Gaulle marched up the Champs-Élysées in 1945. So, this is not new. They got to a cup final in which essentially they didn't pay a blind bit of attention to Marc Livremont. Brunel, having destroyed Italy because he's a pal of the president, becomes coach to France, and he is awful. And no wonder there's a revolution. I mean, I applaud the French, and it just demonstrates the Irish thing, where the Irish players are almost comatose in their kneeling before the coach and doing exactly what he wants. 3 cheers for France and players with actually some testosterone and some courage.
Stephen, he's an anarchist. This is right down your social, Champagne social.
More of an anarcho-syndicalist, probably, but yeah, I mean, there isn't really a mutiny thus far, right? You've got these reports, and really it's all been stirred up by Bougelau, right? Toulon owner Murad Bougelau, as usual, just complaining, stirring things up. Clearly, Gerardo, the captain, has been dropped, so there's some bad blood there between him and the coach. Or not necessarily bad blood, but some, lack of confidence, perhaps. Players have fully come out and said Gerardo's the captain, he's the skipper, he's the man, even if he's not on the field. So, mutiny, I think, little too much drama, a little overstated. France, and George is right on that point. They don't really need a coach.
But Mike, they don't need a coach. Where was Team USA before you came in and took over the program? A, but B, could this be scripted drama on the part of the France? Could they possibly be huddling and saying, "Hey, let's act like we're in complete disarray before Le Crunch"?
I just think that the other hooker's playing better than him. So that's why the bloke's getting picked, and Karuri's probably accepted it. He's on the bench. He can still be the captain of the squad. He can still be the man that leads what needs to be led off the pitch to get them where they need to be. What I find bizarre about the French is they've played a different halfback combination in every game. They don't seem to be settled in any sort of selection. And, for me, it's kind of the perfect storm, the perfect madness. I don't know what's going to happen in this French-England game in terms of who's going to be playing for either team. I think there'll be fun and games. People will be protected so that they go into the quarterfinals. But all I know is that no team will want France in the quarterfinals.
You're close. You're the closest one to being French here on this show. So is...
In terms of dress, in terms of philosophy.
Just your joie de vivre.
Yes, there. Right? Yes, fair enough. Love
fair
of
enough.
champagne.
Wait. Do you see this as what Mr. Friday is possibly alluding to as a tactical thing in terms of the
not
lineups?
at all. Not at all.
And what about Tonga, against France and Argentina? They've squeaked by.
You just don't know what you're going to get. So I don't think there's any real malice or forethought here. I don't think there's some cunning, contrived plan that they're trying to pull, put England off their game or anything. It's just France. It's just a press looking for a story.
All right, let's shift gears to George's adopted nation of Japan versus your Scotland. George, what's your take on Japan-Scotland right now?
Well, there's only one group in the World Cup, which is this one, in which there is any lack of certainty about the 2 teams that are going to qualify. The number of permutations are manifold. It could actually turn out that you had 3 teams on the same number of points, then we're down to points difference, we're down to all sorts of calculations to get who gets through. The key thing for me really is that Japan are on a roll. No matter how Townsend dresses up what Scotland are doing, you cannot say that they are on a roll. Their performance against Samoa was abject, were it not for the conventional awful refereeing, which has bedeviled this competition. They wouldn't have got a bonus point anyway. 2 of the tries were penalty tries. 1 of them wasn't a penalty try. They are awful. And unless the interesting thing about Japan, which I don't think has actually been given enough looking at, is I don't think they played very well against Samoa. They kicked the ball far more, maybe 3-4 times as much as they did against Ireland. They played much more like the way they played against Russia, which leads you to believe, understandably, they are under incredible pressure now to deliver by this nation. And I think the one thing Scotland have going for them is Just like a golfer trying to hole a putt to win the Open Championship, Japan are under pressure. But you have to think that if this team plays the way it can and actually delivers, Scotland haven't a prayer.
Stephen, I got to give you a shot to answer this. Samoa versus Japan drew 40% of the eyeballs, apparently, in Japan on TV. This one's going to draw more. What are they going to see?
Well, let's go back to Samoa, Japan, and let's discuss the last time any scrum anywhere was pulled up for a squint feed. Never mind under the Samoan post in overtime. They got a free kick, then they couldn't convert it. They got another 2 penalties. Now, Roman Poit is, I won't say what that rhymes with, but he's well known in Scotland, and he has a bit of an ongoing feud with Laidlaw. I'm not suggesting there's anything untoward about his attitude, but it was a very, very strange decision.
And not suggesting, you're clearly suggesting.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Anyway, moving forward, Scotland have beaten Russia, comes down to the Japan game, and as a veteran, 55-year-old man, having watched Scotland play in World Cups in rugby and football my whole life, they're going to beat Japan, and they're going to go out on bonus points or something like that.
I'm with you. And I have said on camera that Japan are the most overrated team in the tournament and been completely wrong. So don't waste your money betting on what I say, ladies and gentlemen.
You know, I'm more interested in making sure that these last pool games go ahead irrelevant of whether there's typhoons or not, because I think that just throws the cat completely amongst the pigeons if, you know, we get to the final pool games and for some reason or another a typhoon might delay it for 24 hours, which creates a result when really there's enough time between the quarterfinals and waiting 24 hours for those games to be played. So I think there's a number of things going on this weekend which can make it a kamikaze crazy last weekend of the pool games.
Stephen, 30 seconds before our commercial break.
Typhoon Haggis changed course. It's going to affect the Ireland game. Now it's going to affect the Scotland game and the England game.
And appropriately been renamed Typhoon Haggis. Look it up, folks. But on that note, we have to take a quick break for our balance between entertainment and paying the bills. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
And we are back with Steve Lewis in the studio, Mike Friday and George Hook calling in. Gentlemen, we were talking about a typhoon before we went into break. George, will there be more Irish worried about a typhoon, measles, or Samoa?
I don't think this pool is in Ireland's hands. I think they will beat Samoa. They will struggle because basically Ireland are awful and they are so predictable, and they will crash, bang, wallop for about 80 minutes, and they will score 4 tries from a total number of meters of 10 as they crash over from 2 meters range each time, and they will beat Samoa and get a bonus point. The key match is Scotland versus Japan. I don't believe for a second that Scotland can get 4 tries against Japan. It's just not going to happen. They could beat Japan. That's possible. But we're into points here. And that leaves Scotland with just 14 points. And that's not going to be enough. I also think Japan could get a losing bonus point. And for listeners who aren't, mathematicians here, let's not make it overly complex. But one thing is absolutely certain. When the last whistle blows, this is going to be a numerical computation rather than a simple win, lose, or draw result of the Ireland game and the Japanese game. I think it's possible. I think it's very slim, but possible that Scotland could win if Japan go into their shell. But if Japan can play like I know they can play, then, Scotland have no chance.
Michael, as people always say ABE, anybody but England, I thought I'd give you a fair shake and weigh in on whether you'd like to see Scotland or Ireland advance.
Well, I think Ireland will advance.
I didn't ask that. I didn't ask. I said, who would you prefer out of Ireland and Scotland as an Englishman to advance?
I would prefer Ireland
Really?
to advance.
Really?
But purely and simply because I've got a bit of Irish in me.
Well, there's usually a follow-up joke that we're going to skip there. But, Stephen, what do you have to say to that?
That's unsurprising.
Guys, you got a player of the tourney so far?
I think Ford's had 3 very good games for England. He's attacked very well and flat to the line and had good attacking variations to his game. So George Ford has surprised me with his performances. I haven't seen anybody really stand out across any of the teams.
I have to agree with that. In my sort of, stupefied days this morning trying to get back on time, I actually watched South Africa-Canada, and this South African scrum half scored a hat-trick in like 18 minutes. I wasn't really aware of him. He looked like, and he's behind Faf de Klerk, but Cobus Reinach, I think it was, yeah. So that was a great performance, but over the pool stages, I don't think so yet.
Well, the reason Ford is the outstanding player in the tournament so far is he went to Japan not certain he was going to nail down the number 10 shirt. It was always going to be Farrell's shirt, as it were. Ford has now, in my view, nailed it by 3 outstanding performances. If you want a fly half, you need a fly half who recognises space, can tactically kick, and can organise a backline. All 3, Ford does stupendously well. And I think he's had a wonderful World Cup, and he is, dare I say it, an old-fashioned fly half. He's not 220 pounds. He's not 6'4". He is the old type of fly half that Wales used to provide on a conveyor belt.
George, you do know it's the 2019 World Cup, right? I mean, this constant, hashing back to Welsh fly halves of yore or pint-sized,
They haven't been small for a while.
They haven't been small for a while.
But how about
tell you something?
How about naming somebody from Japan, for God's sakes? We didn't name anybody from Japan. They had the biggest win in the tournament. They stand to win 3 wins, and then go on to the next round, or not go on to the next round again.
But you asked me to pick him. You didn't ask me to pick a Japanese player. You asked
I didn't ask you to pick George. I didn't ask you to pick Ford.
Well, if you want me to pick a Japanese player, get somebody else.
I thought it was a good choice by George.
The right winger for Japan, I think, has got something, but I haven't seen enough of him.
Yeah. Final thoughts in this this riveting segment of Rugby Wrap Up. Michael, why don't you take this lead here and bring us into the promised land?
I'm so interested to see what England and France do in terms of selections, whether they protect players, because I think the last team England want to play in the quarterfinals is Wales, because I think Gatland's got the mind games over England, and I think the Welsh team are hungry to play England in the quarterfinals, and I think and I think Wales and Australia will be desperate to avoid France. So it'll be interesting in terms of the team selections. That's an intriguing one for me. What Eddie Jones will do with Billy Vailapola, what he will do with the outside backs.
He's going to play him until he dies.
Well, I think he'll rest him this week, and I think he'll bring Wilson in. And I think because he'll get him ready for what's going to be an epic quarter-final. And I think Wales, if they can keep their team fit, they're going to be a proper handful come knockout time. Because the favourites to make the semi-finals, New Zealand and South Africa, I see them kind of a shoo-in for the semi-finals. And I just think the other 2 quarter-finals are going to be interesting.
So we're somewhat remiss that we haven't actually discussed the Eagles, Gary Gould's boys. They've been out there doing their bit. Improved performance against France. They're finishing up against Tonga this weekend. And obviously that's a scalp they want to take, they need to take, and I think they will take, despite Tonga's improved performance against France.
Yeah, this is a tough one. And I'd like you guys to weigh on the USA versus Tonga, because I've said all along that a successful tournament for Team USA doesn't necessarily translate into a win. And after watching Tonga take France to the wire, I just don't. That expectation is a tough one.
This tournament, US shouldn't be in this tournament, and neither should Canada, and neither should Namibia, and the other teams. There is no value whatsoever in a tournament in which teams are being beaten by 60 or 70 points.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Should Fiji be in the tournament?
I think that there should be 16 teams. And whoever the best 16 teams are, put them in it. But, don't tell me that USA, Canada, Namibia, et al.
But Uruguay beat Fiji.
Look, I don't care who beat who. I'm telling you, should be a 16-team tournament. Why not make it a 24-team
Okay, all right.
tournament?
No, I don't disagree with you on 16 teams, but if it is a 16-team tournament, Team USA would be in the tournament.
Good for them. But I'm just telling you that 4 years from now, all the money, all the effort, all the talent in America, male and female, will be playing 7s and not 15s.
Mike, as your fellow coach under the USA Rugby umbrella, Mr. Hook stated, do you have a counter to that at all?
Well, I just think that the 15s is a slower burn for the USA, and we've got to get the front 5 athletes. I do think USA have got an opportunity against Tonga, because I don't think Tonga is disciplined in the set piece, both at scrum time and at line-out drive time and line-out defence. And I think if we can break the game up and we can show and illustrate that we're a fitter team, then we can play some continuity in the attacking game. Then I think USA can cause Tonga problems and can possibly get that win, because they're not going to get strangled in the set piece and at scrum time like they have been with the other games in the group. And that's the change in tactics that hopefully Gary and the team can get in place for that Tonga game.
Stephen, Rugby X kicks off at the end of the month, and you've got the likes of Haskell and Delaglio talking about it.
October 29th.
What is your opinion of this? I
think it's yet another variation of the game that is not needed. I get some of the indoor part of it. I just think it's a distraction. It deters from promoting. When you're trying to go out and sell professional 7s, and here now you're having to explain away yet another version of the game. You've got 10s. You got this Super 7s nonsense. You've got this. It's too much. It's too much.
I'm getting sick and tired of just explaining that it's not Aussie rules football. Mike, this competes directly with you or doesn't, and is it a factor?
I mean, we're going to participate, so we'll understand what the game can do.
Harumph.
I think it's more akin to arena football. That's the way I'd explain it. So I'm not convinced, but I'm not going to be put off by it until I've actually participated and seen. I think it has the capability to be an entertaining corporate event for over 3 hours under the bright lights indoors, so it can be like razzmatazzy, a bit like arena football could be. But
what's the surface?
It's going to be a Deso 4G. So the reality is it will be a decent surface, but it will never replace 7s and it will never replace 15s.
George, are you still with us, or did your head pop?
Mr. Stephen Lewis put it immeasurably better than I could ever do, and I concur.
There is no figuring how he's going to respond, because you think he's going to, and there he is, the beauty, a consummate pro. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think I like to say any rugby is good rugby because I have a show, but this one's like the WWE attempt, and I don't know.
Not feeling it. Not
feeling it. And again, it's like, okay, are we going to keep watering down the product, or are we going to beef up what we got? Anyway, thank you, gentlemen. On behalf of all of you, Mr. George Hook, Mr. Mike Friday, Mr. Stephen Lewis back from Japan, I'm Matt McCarthy here for Rugby Wrap-Up in Midtown Manhattan, signing off.